Welcome everybody, I'm Michael Bigattini and this is Jessica from Lotus Vini, and we're here to talk about two wines from one winery in the Valpolicella region of Italy, right near Venice. Beautiful. And so the first wine we're going to talk about is an IGT wine. This is the classification of wine in Italy that allows them to play around and experiment and come up with new wines that aren't as traditional. It's the last wine we're going to talk about, which is the Amarone, which is probably the most famous and sought-after wine from this area.
And what is the winery we're
It is Nicholas. Okay. And Nicholas is family-owned and operated. They've had this winery since 1951. Wow. The property is 68 hectares, but only 42 of them are planted. And so not a big production, not really a small production either. So the first wine we'll talk about is Testal, which is a Veronese dialect, means end of the row. And the main grape in here is a grape called Corvina, which is the most important grape in the Valpolicella region. And it's a grape that's got lots of acidity. And it's used in the Valpolicellas, the Amarones, and it's got lots of acidity because you desiccate the fruit, so you need to have a little bit more acid in your grape than you normally would have for a wine, because that acid is so important to make it taste good with the food.
I see.
So this particular wine, 90% Corvina, then there's 5% Merlot, 5% Cabernet Sauvignon. Not French grapes, or not Italian grapes, they're French grapes, but that's why it falls under the category of Indicazione Grafica Tipica, because it just lets them experiment and play around a little bit, and it gives a little bit more richness into the mouth of this wine. So this wine, when it's only made from the grapes with the best sun exposure, the southern sun exposure, and when the grapes hit a certain amount of sugar, they pick them and they place them on a Testal, which kind of looks like the T in here, and it's kind of like a rack that's just above the grapevines, and they'll cut the vine and they'll just place it up top, and they leave it there for 2 weeks, and it slowly desiccates, concentrating the flavors a little bit and bringing us this nice rich wine that we have here. So when you taste this wine, we got fresh fruit smells, sour cherries, raspberries, huckleberries, Saskatoon berry even.
Nice ruby color too.
Gorgeous ruby color, beautiful mouthfeel. You feel this all over your mouth, and right now you're salivating. That's acidity in the wine, and that's really the key to Italian wine. Being so much tomatoes in their diet, we need to have a wine that can deal with all the acid in tomatoes, and Corvina is one of those grapes. Just like Sangiovese is in Chianti, Corvina is the grape of this region. So nice, rich, fresh tasting, where the Amarone, which falls under the Denominazione d'Origine Control standard, is a traditional wine. This is very new and modern. There's not much wine like this that comes out of Italy. But I have to say, lovely, beautiful balance, very, very, very flavorful, tasty little wine. The Amarone, different story than this guy, still use desiccated fruit. But here we have 4 grapes in here. The main grape, again, Corvina. Then we put a little bit of Rondinello and a grape called Molinara. And those are the 3 traditional grapes of the area. These guys add a 4th grape in here called Croatina, which gives a little bit more acidity. There's not very much in there, but it definitely adds a little bit more acidity to it. And they pick the grapes at a normal harvest, and they bring them into the winery, and they place them on straw mats, and they leave them there until March or April, and with fans that are constantly blowing in this room. So when you have these semi-raisins, then they crush the grapes. They let the fermentation occur. After the fermentation is done, they continue to let it sit on the dry skins, and then it starts to pull that rich, velvety silkiness of the dried fruit into the wine. After that's set together for a little while, then they rack the wine off. It goes into the barrel for 2 years, bottle for a year, and then they sell it as Amarone. Nice, big, rich. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous wine. So let's try this Amarone. We'll just finish this Testal. You don't want to wreck this. This is too good of a wine.
Yeah, no, of course. While on the note of Testal, you had mentioned that it's a late harvest Corvina. What is the difference between a late harvest grape and the Ripasso?
So Ripasso is the same grapes that go into Amarone.
Okay.
After the Amarone set with the dried skins, they rack the wine off. They have a tank full of the dried skins.
Yes.
And they pour the already fermented Valpolicella onto these skins. And it starts to pull that rich velvety silkiness of the dried fruit into the wine. So not as rich as the Amarone, but you know, about the same as this Corvina, this Testal here.
So instead of recycling the grapes, then this is the first time that they've been used.
Totally.
Beautiful.
So the Amarone, desiccated grapes, instead of having that nice fresh fruit flavor, we're going to have more dry fruit flavors, like prunes and raisins and craisins. Still great acidity, though. So when you smell this guy, yeah, you get that, that nice... like almost prune smell, raisin smell.
Yeah. More of a dried fruit?
Dried fruit, yeah, for sure.
As opposed to the fresh berries.
Definitely more concentrated, too. When you taste it, the feel in your mouth, it's like cream compared to this guy, which would be like milk. This is like weighty and rich.
Yes.
Just beautiful. Just makes you want to eat. And luckily, we have some cheese here.
Yes.
So I always think that Italian wines are best with food.
Okay.
When you're over in Italy, they don't sit around and drink wine the way we drink wine. Wine is food to the Italians, and so, you know, it really works well. So with all this acidity, when you have you know, the fat or the richness in your mouth, the acid, you don't quite perceive it as much. So have a bite of the cheese, kind of mush it around your mouth a little bit, swallow it, then have a sip of the wine, and even, you know, the tannins are soft and sweet and round in this wine, but they're even softer when you have that richness in your mouth from the cheese.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
You know, if you're 2-bottle night, Testal first, Amarone second, and let the fun times begin.
Beautiful. Cheers.
Cheers.